Alright, this is my first time doing, well, anything like this. I've done an unhealthy amount of my designs based on JoJo, but this is my first time making like a time-lapse video on it. But I have seen like a lot of these online and wanted to maybe do one myself, so this is that. It's weird to think that my first one is going to be with the random Ratt stand from part 4. But I recently rewatched the episode with some family members. Yeah, I'm spreading the scripture, and realized how awesome the stand really is. I never really thought of the arc as anything more than just a little side quest for Josuke, as well as like where he learns that he can fire things, which is later pretty important for the last episode. But upon returning, I think it might be one of my favorites in the part, or fight-wise. I think it's just really great. And, you know, I'm gonna go into this right here because, I mean, the art stuff's pretty self-explanatory. I really want to take this time to talk about what the stand could mean. Because, you know, yeah, I recently graduated, and AP Literature really changed the way I saw stories in general. And I really think there's a lot of metaphorical, like, significance to everything that happens in this fight. Well, not everything, but you know, like, a solid amount. Animal stands have always been really interesting to see throughout the series, given, well, the obviously animalistic nature of their users and their desires. And as such, a lot of the animal stands from the main universe have been pretty simplistic, excluding Strength and Mr. President, the former because it belongs to the most human-like animal around, a monkey, and the latter because it's just connected to turtle theming. Also, part 5 is just incredible. Like, I have no doubt that that's part of it. So Iggy's stand controls sand, Horus controls ice, and Stray Cat controls air. And these are, of course, all really, really simplified and dumbed down versions of the powers, but the idea still stands. Ratt, on the other hand, doesn't control, like, one of these just basic elements. Rather than the other 3 stands, Ratt is definitely the weirdest and, like, from the surface, the most disconnected from the user. But after, like, putting some thought into it, I think there's really a lot of things that actually kind of make sense about why the stand is the way that it is. Unlike the other stand users, animal stand users, once again excluding Coco Jumbo, the 2 Ratts in part 4 have no real intent behind them. No thoughts, no directive, or desire beyond its natural instinct of hunting and eating. And if we really want to stretch it, this could be our first reference to the musical inspiration of the band Ratt with 2 T's. Their most popular song is Hands Down, Round and Round, which might be an insight into the user's goals, being the simple repetitive behavior led by its instincts. You know, of course, like the round and round, like the cycle that keeps on going. And this could also connect to the natural circle of life, which would also be demonstrated via both the action of the Ratts and the arc's theme as a whole. Like the sort of hunt or be hunted aspect of it all. And back to the stand, starting with appearance, it's really, really mechanical, like probably the most in the series. You know, it's got those screws, bolts, hinges, lots of stuff that isn't organic in the slightest. You know, like it fully opens up and a latch comes out to shoot the turret. And even the fact that it's a turret at all is like super mechanical. Which seems on the surface to contradict a lot with the natural theming I was just talking about. But I actually think it might contribute more to the theming, believe it or not. Because those repetitive instinct-based behaviors might actually be represented via this robotic nature of the stand. There's no real sentience behind it, nor personality. It's just a tool that the users use to obtain food. Much like how guns are just a tool for humans to demonstrate or achieve power, which we do actually see from Josuke and Jotaro firing bullets using their stands. In this regard, we actually start to see a bit of connection with this seemingly isolated arc and the rest of the part. This one instance showing that stands are nothing more than opportunities to achieve one's goals And in this animalistic nature of the rats, we get the impression that these goals are often impulsive and selfish, an idea that's repeatedly supported throughout the part. And almost every antagonist uses their stand for selfish human reasons. And the rat arc really draws a parallel between this impulsivity and the animalistic intentions of actual animals, giving the impression that all these, like, bad people in Morio are just kind of not human, if that makes sense. Like, they're doing things that actively go against humanity, which goes really, really hand in hand with what Araki has described the overall series to be representative of, being a celebration of humanity as a whole. Which, you know, I think is really interesting. I never really considered this fight to be anything more than just the rat one. But the idea that this could have, like, a lasting impact on the way that the entire, like, part could be perceived is really interesting. Ability-wise, the idea of shooting darts is once again really disconnected in the context of a rat, but makes sense in the aforementioned connections between the stand and the overall criticism of humanity. Like I was talking about the idea that guns are just used to assert power, in the same vein that this is just used to... I mean, it's also sort of extending the idea of asserting power, except this is more like for the idea to live. Like, this is just natural. And the melting part of the darts would thus be the idea that one person's selfish desires can cause the rest of societies to just sort of crumble. And again, we see this a lot in the part. Like, in the face of these really, really bad seeds, like Angelo, like, everything just sort of stops working. The leading cop of the neighborhood dies because of Angelo. It is the fact that he got the power of a stand that led this town into, like, a worse position. And so that's just the idea that, like, it only really takes one really, really bad person to sort of start eating away at what makes humanity or society fundamentally stable. Then, when power is granted to both the good side and the bad side of a conflict, which was shown frequently throughout the part because of the way that the arrow is used, granting powers to not good people and then forcing good people to actually deal with it. We can see the conflict between, like, these bad stand users and the good ones. But when power is given to both, morality sort of grays, just because, like, if the idea of fighting is that whichever side wins is the correct one, then if at any moment the bad side could just win, then, like, it's hard to say what good really is. I mean, it's obvious in the part because the protagonists are good and the antagonists are evil, but it's just sort of the idea of it, the notion of, like, power as a whole. And really, I think this whole discussion has just been about what power means and how it's used, as well as, like, morality, which is really philosophical for a stand that belongs to a rat. And I feel like a lot of this might just be, like, really, really, like, stretching things. But honestly, a lot of the stuff that's showing up kinda makes sense. I don't know. I think that this fight really... It's hard to call it a changing point for the part, because it definitely isn't, but it is a really, really dramatic change in tone. Like, I would... I'm still rewatching part 4, but I feel like I would consider this to be, like, the darkest toned episode. Because even when we get to, like, the really bad stuff with, like, the human killers, it's not, like, this horror feeling that we get from, like, seeing the deceased family that the rats have, like, hunted and killed. Like, and that juxtaposition, that contrast, just really sets the tone for the rest of the part and all these villains. So yeah, that's my discussion about Ratt with 2 T's belonging to 2 rats. Let me know if you want me to do more breakdowns like this in the future. This is really fun. I like doing art, I like talking about things. I mean, I'm definitely gonna keep doing the art stuff, but, you know, I just want to gauge interest for the whole time-lapse part. Ooh, particularly the analysis part of the time-lapse, because that definitely took the most work. Time-lapse is just kind of recording what I'm doing, you know? So let me know what you guys think. Is there anything that I missed? Maybe any more metaphorical symbolism and such? Or is he really just a rat and I should stop overthinking it? Well, let me know.